On today's show, the Houston Rockets look rested but pretty rusty against the Denver Nuggets in their final game of the regular season. We're going to go back and take a look at some of our predictions before the season even started, our Locked On Rockets board bets, things like standings, records, statistics, and more. Plus, who's the better first-round matchup, the Golden State Warriors or the Memphis Grizzlies? Status of the Suns pick and more. It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
82 games in the books, and what a fun ride it has been. What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Also, check out our Locked On Rockets newsletter. We sincerely appreciate all of that support. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to check them out. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. A lot to get into on today's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about the final game of the regular season against the Denver Nuggets. Couple quick observations from that one. Then we're going to get into our Locked On Rockets board bets, our predictions from before the season even started. Shout out to everybody who participated in that, however many months ago it was before the season even began. And I wanted to compare the predictions for how we thought this season was going to go to how it actually panned out with some of these predictions. So we'll go through those here in just a moment. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time, our first preliminary chance to explore the possibilities of this first round matchup. We know it's going to be one of the Golden State Warriors or the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round for the Houston Rockets. So we'll talk about that a little bit, a quick update on the Phoenix Suns pick later on. And trust me when I say we've got a ton of preview content, crossover content, all sorts of stuff lined up this week. Our next episode will be with the Podfather himself. We're going to be diving into kind of the pros and cons of each potential matchup for the Rockets in the first round with the Warriors, with the Grizzlies, and we'll kind of come to a conclusion at the end of that as who would be the better first round opponent. Today, I'm just going to kind of dip my toes in the water, if you will, of that discussion. But let's start with the final game of the regular season. Rockets lose to the Denver Nuggets 126-111. And honest to God, there's just not a lot to take away from this game, except for the fact that Rockets looked fresh. They looked rested. They also looked rusty as hell. Like, this game is a perfect case study for the rest versus rust argument. And hopefully it won't matter at the end of the day, because we do know now the NBA has officially announced that the Rockets will at least be playing their first game on Sunday, Easter Sunday, April 20th. We don't know what time they're playing their first game yet, but they've announced the entire slate for Saturday, the start of the NBA playoffs, and we know which teams will be playing on Sunday. We just don't know what time yet, and then obviously waiting for the Rockets opponent to be announced as well. But they were going to have a long layoff anyways between their final game and when the playoffs actually started. So I think the rest is still warranted, but they did not look like they had a great rhythm out there. And Denver just looked like the hungrier team. This game mattered to Denver. It didn't matter to the Rockets. And that's honestly, at the end of the day, that's the main takeaway from this game is Denver was still playing for their playoff livelihood. They were playing to make sure that they could secure that fourth seed, and they're now in a matchup in the 4-5 bracket against the Clippers. And they were firing on all cylinders. They really were. They looked really solid. Jokic dropped like 14 in the first quarter. And the Rockets just flat out struggled. They got, outside of Amen, Sengun, and Van Vliet, they really didn't get a ton from anybody else, any of the other regulars in the rotation. Plus, they were missing Jabari Smith Jr., who was a late scratch due to some groin tightness or something like that, I think is what Ime said. And at the end of the day, it's not, this game was inconsequential to the Rockets. They wanted one more tune-up game, yes, before the postseason arrived, but Ime Udoka waved the white flag pretty early in the third quarter. I mean, the Nuggets won the first quarter 36-23, and the Rockets just kind of kept coasting. After that, they matched them 29-29 in the second quarter. And then the third quarter where Denver just opened to the floodgates and just piled it on. At one point, the lead ballooned up to 36. It got pretty bad. And before that even happened, I think it was like a 23-point deficit, and Ime called timeout and came back with Reed Shepherd and Cam Whitmore. And it was like, okay, that's game. It's game over. So a bit of a disappointing end to the regular season to technically slide out on a 3-game losing streak. Again, 2 of those don't really count, but a couple takeaways from this one. One, Fred did look probably the healthiest he's been in a while since like pre-ankle injury. He looked solid. He looked a little springy out there. His drives looked good, like getting to the rim, initiating contact, trying to get to the free throw line. And again, really the only reason it felt like he was probably doing any of that stuff is because Jalen was just having a complete off night. Just a really awful game for Jalen. 2 points, 0 of 7 shooting. And we know that Jalen is absolutely maybe the most rhythm-dependent player up and down this entire Rockets roster. And so for the past couple games of him just going out there, getting up a few shots, getting some cardio in the first half to keep his games played streak alive, but not really super duper taking the game seriously. It's probably messed with his rhythm a little bit. So hopefully that's something that he's able to find again before game 1 of the Rockets first round series against whoever it may be. But Jalen really struggled in this game. Amen, Sengun, Fred, they tried to keep the Rockets afloat in this one. Amen finished with 15 points, 6 boards, 6 assists on 6 of 9 shooting. Nice. Sengun had 14 points on 7 of 14 shooting. He started the game really strong and then started to kind of struggle a little bit, as the game progressed. And then Fred with 15 points on 5 of 13 shooting, 3 of 8 from downtown. That was kind of it. I mean, Rockets didn't get a ton of contributions from anybody else in the key rotation. Again, no Jabari Smith Jr. So the main takeaway for me was just Fred looked fresh. He looked rested, and that, and by extension, the whole team they looked pretty fresh. The rest is important. The win, the loss, it didn't matter. And the only other interesting tidbit that I will say is, at one point in this game, they were rolling out the double big lineup with Adams and Sengun, and they elected to run man-to-man coverage while those two were out there for a few minutes. And I believe they finished -5 in the minutes where they were running man-to-man coverage defensively, which is not great. Not awful, but not great. And I asked Ime about it after the game, and he was basically just like, yeah, we just wanted to take a look at it. Final game of the regular season. We know what we have with those two guys when we're playing zone, and we wanted to take, get it on film. We haven't seen Adams against Jokic this season because Jokic has missed every previous matchup with the Nuggets and Rockets. So they just kind of wanted to check that out, see what it looked like. And it didn't look bad, but I definitely think they're much more suited to playing zone with those two guys out there than they are to have Sengun chasing, Aaron Gordon or a switch onto MPJ on the perimeter or something like that, or Peyton Watson or whoever else they've gotten there next to Jokic at the 4 spot. But I understand why Ime wanted to maybe see how Adams could handle Jokic individually one-on-one. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see that again at some point in the postseason. But that's it. 82 games in the books. Rockets finish with a 52-30 record. Coming up, predictions. How did your predictions look? If you submitted a Locked on Rockets board bet, thank you. We're going to revisit those predictions, see how the team stacked up compared to how we thought they would do earlier this season. And then we'll get into some preliminary thoughts on Warriors versus Grizzlies, as well as where the Suns pick ultimately ended up and still could be moving a little bit more. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Look, for this postseason, first game on the docket, I'm picking Jalen Green for more than 25 points and Alperen Sengun for more than 8 rebounds. It really is that simple. You can set up your lineup in under 60 seconds. PrizePicks even runs cool promos like Taco Tuesday, where they discount certain player projections up to 25% for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today, use code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by WayFair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, WayFair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, or outdoor lighting, WayFair has quality products for every single budget. Look, their free and fast shipping makes things so simple, so easy. You're not hauling heavy items to and from the store. With WayFair, you can upgrade any space in your house, your kitchen, your bathroom, your living room, whatever you're looking to upgrade. WayFair makes it so incredibly easy. Shopping is seamless. You can find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. WayFair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's wayfair.com. WAYFAIR.com. WayFair, every style, every home. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, let's get into, if you remember, before the season started, and this is something I'm going to try to do every season from now on, we did our Locked On Rockets board bets. Shout out to the hundreds, everybody who submitted a prediction on this board bet Google form that I put out there. But let's revisit these predictions and see kind of how the Rockets actually stacked up across the board. So the first of which here is, how many wins will the Houston Rockets get in the 2024-2025 season? They finished 52-30. Now 50 plus was the highest I went on this list, and 21.2% of people chose 50 plus on this option. A very small amount, 4.7% of people chose 49 wins. 22% of people chose 48 wins. Down the line. So only 21% of people, 21.2% of people thought that the Rockets would go 50 plus this season. Shout out to you. You got that absolutely right. Now, this is another one where nobody had this one. Where will the Rockets finish in the West standings? Top 4 was its own option by itself, and they finished number 2. Only 2.4% of people chose top 4. That is wild to me. And to be fair, nobody expected them to finish number 2 in the Western Conference. That was a complete shock to absolutely everybody across the board. Where will the Rockets rank offensively this season? Ranked 20th in the 2023-2024 season. It was either top 15 or 16th or below. 77.6% of people said that the Rockets would finish top 15 in offense this season. They did. They finished 12th in offensive rating. So a substantial jump from 20th last season to 12th. Still not great at times. Offense has definitely been their Achilles heel throughout this season, but significantly better than last season. Next one, where will the Houston Rockets rank defensively this season? They were 10th in the 2023-2024 season. The 2 options, top 5 and then 6th or below. The minority won this one. The majority said that they would finish 6th or below with 54.1% of the vote. 45.9% said that they would finish top 5. And as of the culmination of the regular season, the Rockets did indeed finish with the 5th best defense in the NBA. Defensive rating 110.3, right there at number 5. So if you were in that minority bracket of the vote, congratulations, you got that right. Will the Rockets attempt more or less than 38.5 threes per game? They did 36.1 last year. So option 1 was more than 38.5. Option 2 was less than 38.5. The overwhelming majority, 68% of people, said more than 38.5 threes per game. And that did not happen. The Rockets only attempted 35.8 three-pointers per game. So if you were in the minority on that one, less than 38.5, you got that one right. Will the Rockets shoot higher than 36.5% from three? Spoiler alert, they did not. And a lot of people thought the three-point shooting would improve. 71.8% of people thought that the Rockets would shoot higher than 36.5% from three. They wound up shooting 35.3% from three, unfortunately. Where will the Rockets rank, or will Houston rank higher or lower than 10.5 in pace? They were 13th in pace the previous season, and the Rockets did rank lower than that. They ranked 18th in pace this year. This is where it starts getting a little spicy, a little fun. How many All-Stars will the Rockets have this season? 70% of people chose one All-Star. And that's exactly what happened. The Rockets got Alperen Sengun, first All-Star, first homegrown star of the Rockets rebuild, first homegrown star since Yao Ming, since the Rockets, I guess technically they didn't draft him, but they drafted Alp. He's never played a game for another franchise, and that's what matters. 20% of people said 0 All-Stars, and then 8% of people said 2+ All-Stars. So that was incredibly optimistic. Will the Rockets have more or less than 2.5 All-Star weekend participants, meaning the All-Star game, Rising Stars, dunk contest, 3-point contest, all that stuff? The Rockets did indeed have more than 2.5 participants because they had Alperen Sengun, they had Reed Sheppard, and they had Amin Thompson out there. Although technically Reed Sheppard was representing the RGV Vipers, so maybe you don't count that one. I don't know. Will the Rockets sorry, I apologize. That was 51.8% said less than 2.5 participants, and 48% said more than 2.5 participants. Will the Rockets make more or less than 1.5 trades during the 2024-2025 season? I typoed that one. Fun. Technically, they did make more than one trade when they brought in, oh my God, why am I blanking on homeboy from the Hawks? Oh, he never played a game for the Rockets, and he got waived, and it was the Jaden Springer trade, and then it was his trade, and why am I blanking on who it was? Oh, my goodness. This is awful. I should have had this prep before the season, or before the show started. Technically, they made 2 trades. So with that, if you chose the more than 1.5 trades, you got that one right. Only 38% of people chose that one. All right. Will the Rockets participate in the in-season tournament knockout round? 77% of people said yes. Only 22% of people had the faith that they would not be in the tournament. Will Alperen Sengun average over or under 23.5 points this season? Under for Alp. 55% of people got that one right. He was under. Will Alperen Sengun average over or under 6 assists per game? 65% of people, 66% of people actually thought that Alp would average more than 6 assists per contest. He only averaged 4.9 per game. So he was just a hair away from averaging 5 per game in this season. And then will Alperen Sengun have a 46+ game, breaking his scoring record? This one was like dead even down the middle, 49.4% one side, 50.6%. But the minority wins this one, 49.4%. Alp did not break his single game scoring record. For Jalen Green, will Jalen average over or under 22.5 points this season? The overwhelming majority chose over, 68.2%. And Jalen Green did not get to 22.5 points. I apologize. He averaged right at 21 a game this season. Will Jalen Green shoot higher than 34.5% from three? 77.6% of people said yes, and he did indeed achieve that. He managed to shoot 35.4% from three this season, so a nice little improvement there. And then will Jalen Green have a 43+ point single scoring game, breaking his scoring record? He did not. And 67% of people thought that he would, but he did not. So shout out to the 32.9% that got that one correct. Will Jabari Smith Jr. average more or less than 9.5 rebounds per game? He averaged 8.1 the season before. Jabari finished the year, unfortunately, due to missing time and then having his role change and coming off the bench. Jabari finished the year averaging just 7 rebounds per game. Now, I am curious what he was averaging before he got hurt. What was he at, actually? Rebounds. He was only at 6.5 rebounds per game before the injury. Okay, interesting. All right, well, that's a bummer for Jabari, but a majority of people thought less than 9.5, so 77% of people. Will Tari Eason average more or less than 2.5 stocks, steals plus blocks per game? Tari barely made it. He's averaging 1.7 steals and 0.9 blocks per game, putting him at 2.6 stocks total. And the overwhelming majority thought that was possible. More than 2.5 stocks, 82.4% of voters chose that option. Great job for everybody involved. This one was a wild one, and I had no idea which way this was going to go. How many games will Amin Thompson start this season? The highest, so I did 14 or less, 15 to 27, 28 to 40, and then 41 plus. The two least voted options were 14 games or less had 10.6% of the vote. 41 plus also had 10.6% of the vote. And he has started 42 games this season. So shout out to everybody who envisioned Amin Thompson entering the starting lineup and not leaving the starting lineup. All right. A couple more here before we wrap this one up. Before we wrap this up, will Cam Whitmore play more or less than 15 minutes per game? 68% of people said more than 15 minutes per game. And here's the thing about the Cam Whitmore one. Technically, he did. He played 16.2 minutes per game. I kind of, in hindsight being 2020, I kind of wish that I had rewrote this question, because Cam played 16.2 minutes per game. He was not a part of the Rockets rotation. And I think that's where the heart of that question was coming from. Cam racked up DNP after DNP after DNP this season. And I think his minutes being at 16.2 are only ballooned by some of the games where he checked in and played garbage time for like the entire fourth quarter, or games where he got the start because the Rockets were punting on a game. Situations like that, more or less, kind of helped boost his per game average in minutes, at least up to above 15. So technically, if you voted more than 15 minutes, you got that one right. But Cam was not remotely part of the Rockets rotation this season, unfortunately. Will Reed Sheppard shoot higher than 39.5% from three? Majority of people said lower than 39. 58.8% chose lower than 39.5 from three, and that is exactly what happened. Reed Sheppard only shot 33.8% from downtown his rookie season. He really struggled with his shot until kind of the latter stage of the season. Where will Reed Sheppard finish in Rookie of the Year voting? Options: first, second, third, fourth, or lower. Sorry for the fourth or lower crowd. 4.7%. Y'all have that one on lock. Reed Sheppard is nowhere near being a finalist for Rookie of the Year. Unfortunate, just didn't get enough time. If he had been on a bad team getting 30, 35 minutes a night, he absolutely would have been the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I feel that in my bones. Will Dillon Brooks finish the season as a starter? 75% of people said no. 24.7% of people are Dillon Brooks truthers, and they said yes, he would. He did finish the season as a starter. Who plays more total minutes this season? Amin Thompson or Tari Eason? Amin Thompson, 56.5% of the vote, and that was true in a landslide. I'm not even going to pull up the minutes. Amin played way more minutes than Tari this season. And will Steven Adams still be on the Rockets roster after the NBA trade deadline? 81% of voters said yes, and Big Steve-O is indeed still part of the Rockets roster. So those are our Locked on Rockets board bets for this season. It's interesting to kind of revisit and see where things landed ultimately with this team, how they fared throughout this 24-25 campaign. Shout out to everybody who participated in those predictions before the season started. Coming up, let's talk a little bit about Warriors versus Grizzlies, where the Suns pick is at, and a couple other things. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into different player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many different ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets today. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, let's talk a little Warriors and Grizzlies here. The winner of this 7-8 matchup in the West Play-In tournament will be the Houston Rockets' first round opponent in the 2-7 matchup. Hopefully you're not doing anything Tuesday night, because Tuesday, 9 p.m. Central is when this play-in tournament game tips off, and the winner of it, again, faces the Rockets in the first round. And honestly, I could be talked into either of them being the ideal matchup for the Rockets. I really could. Part of that stems from, I feel like the Rockets have a very strong case to make against anybody in the Western Conference, up and down the standings, outside of the OKC Thunder. And even then, they've been able to hold their own a little bit against OKC this season. Let's start with the Warriors. First and foremost, I, like probably many other Rockets, there's like a primal fear that sets in when you see the Warriors. And even though narratively, I've talked about this before, it would be fantastic for the Rockets to usher in this new era of playoff basketball under Ime Udoka and the young core and all this by beating the Warriors and kind of exercising their previous playoff demons, right, from the previous era of Rockets playoff basketball, when they were trying to win a title with James Harden and all that stuff, and they were eliminated by the Warriors over and over and over and over from the postseason. It would be great for them to be able to win against the Warriors in the first round and move on and kind of maybe put an end to the Warriors dynasty as we know it, potentially. Although they're on the hook for Jimmy Butler for another couple of years. Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph are going to ride off into the sunset together, I'm guessing. But at the same time, like, it's the Warriors, and that scares me. I don't know if if I could take another loss to the Warriors emotionally, it might destroy me. I don't know where you're at, but that's where what my body's telling me. What I will say though is Jimmy got hurt at the end of the Warriors Clippers game to kind of decide the standings in the West, because it came down to that final game of the regular season for those two squads. And he took like a knee to his thigh at the end of the game, and he was like limping hardcore on the court. And Jimmy's played through a lot in his career. He's a tough guy, but if Jimmy is even like 5 or 10% hobbled going into this play-in game in particular, but also potentially a first round series if the Warriors win, then you could absolutely talk me into the Warriors being the better matchup, because offensively, I don't know where they're going to get their offense. I really don't. Like, at the end of the Clippers game, it looked like so many guys were afraid to shoot the basketball, and so much is going to be on Steph's shoulders with that squad. Outside of Steph, Dre, and Jimmy, they do not have many, if any at all, proven playoff performers on that roster. And I think that's absolutely going to come back to bite them this postseason, whether it's in the play-in game, whether it's in a first round series with the Rockets, or potentially in a first round series with the OKC Thunder, or maybe they get eliminated altogether. Like, we could very easily see the Warriors supporting cast struggle and lose a couple straight play-in games. Like, it's a distinct possibility at this point. On the flip side of things with the Grizzlies, they're the team that everybody wanted in the first round. They're the team that is easily kind of on the most unstable ground, firing Taylor Jenkins. They'd been underperforming. They severely underperformed relative to expectations. Ja Morant's back to doing all sorts of his wacky celebrations. First the finger guns, then he's throwing grenades into the crowd. And it's ridiculous over there. But they have their big three, right? Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. presents some potentially risky matchup issues with him potentially playing at the 4. We saw that when the Rockets running their current iteration of the current starting lineup. They don't have a ton of size to match up with Jaren Jackson Jr. if he's at the 4 and they've got Zach Edey at the 5. Maybe the Rockets would be willing to start Steven Adams in place of one of Dillon Brooks or Amin Thompson in the postseason in order to match up with the Grizzlies if the Grizzlies became the first round opponent. That would be an interesting coaching dilemma for Ime Udoka. Would he stick with his smaller lineup, or would he insert more size and go with the double big with Steven Adams? And would Amin or DB be willing and comfortable coming off the bench for the betterment of the team? That's going to be an interesting strategic adjustment that we'd see against the Grizzlies. But they don't have Jalen Wells. He fractured his hand or something, and he's out for the season. So that's a small benefit to the Rockets there. Starting Vince Williams Jr. in his place, at least the last game that they tried with their starters, they started him. But they've got a ton of depth. They've got Santi Aldama. They've got Luke Kennard. They've got Scottie Pippen Jr. They've got, like, the Grizzlies are in an interesting spot because I think their style kind of actually matches with the Rockets, and both of these teams might wind up playing a fast-paced series if they play against each other, right? They like to get defensive stops. They want to get out and run in transition, really push tempo. But the Grizzlies do a really poor job of taking care of the basketball. They do. They turn the ball over a ton, and the Rockets and Grizzlies both actually struggle to execute in the half court offensively. So there's a lot of similarities for these two teams, and on paper, the Rockets probably have a better chance against the Grizzlies. But I really don't know. I feel like I could be talked into either potential first round matchup. I want your thoughts in particular on Warriors versus Grizzlies. Who would you want to see in the first round for this Rockets team? Again, we're going to be exploring those potential matchups in our next episode with the Podfather. So be on the lookout for that. We'll do the pros and cons of Warriors versus Grizzlies and kind of come away with our ultimate hope for the outcome of this West 7-8 play-in game. But let's get to, really quickly before wrapping up today, one other thing as far as the end of the regular season is concerned is the result or the final outcome of the Suns' schedule, who went 1-9 over their last 10 games. Just a brutal end to the Phoenix Suns season. They've already fired head coach Mike Budenholzer. Like, they're blowing everything up, and they're going to work with KD to facilitate his trade, a trade to whatever his desired destination is. Sounds like the Knicks are becoming serious suitors for KD potentially. So we'll see what happens there, or at least New York heavily looking into KD. And I doubt it's going to be a return to Brooklyn. So probably New York. The Suns pick and the Blazers pick are both currently, or I guess record wise, they're both currently sitting at 36 and 46. So they're both tied for the 9th worst record in the NBA. Now, what this means for the Rockets is it goes to a coin flip between these two teams. So the coin flips last year were done like about a week and a half after the regular season ended. So we'll know probably in about a week or 2 weeks where that Suns pick will ultimately be, whether it's going to have the 9th best odds or the 10th best odds. 9th best odds would be fantastic. That would give the Rockets a 17.3% chance at a top 4 pick, 3.8% chance at the number 1 overall pick. Now, dropping to 10 is not the end of the world. It's still a 16.9% chance, which if you squint and you don't look at the 1, that's a 6.9% chance. Nice. And a 3.7% chance at the number 1 overall pick. So not the absolute end of the world if the pick drops one spot, if the Rockets lose the coin toss, but it is an exciting place for the Rockets to be in with that 9th best odds pick in the lottery. And maybe we see another year where the Rockets pick jumps into the top 4. And again, we'll also have some draft content as kind of bonus content in addition to our focus on the postseason and the playoffs and kind of how the Rockets are doing with their continued campaign this year. The first time we've had postseason basketball in years. First time I've had, or actually I can't say that. I did get to cover one postseason doing Locked On Rockets, my very first year. It was the bubble postseason against the Lakers. So this will be my second time being able to cover a Rockets playoff run on the show. But we'll have some additional draft content kind of on the side, taking a look at some things, look at some prospects and kind of what the Rockets should or shouldn't do with the pick. Maybe, If it jumps up, what happens? If it stays where it's at, maybe they trade down. There's so many different options that the Rockets have with that pick. And we'll explore some of that a little bit later on. But I did get some grief for this the last time I talked about the Suns pick. I didn't do a tankathon spin. And for that, you have my deepest condolences. I'm so sorry. I will atone for those sins right now, and we will run a quick tankathon spin to wrap up today's episode. And who moved up? Wow. Dallas, talk about karma for making the dumbest mistake in professional sports history by trading Luka. Dallas's pick jumped all the way up to number 2 in the lottery. Washington moved up 1 spot. Charlotte stayed put. Philly moved up a spot. Utah dropped a chunk. So the Rockets pick wound up at 10. So the Rockets dropped effectively 1 spot down to 10. Not the end of the world, but damn, Dallas getting the 2nd overall pick. Tankathon is on something here. All right, well, with that, that's going to do it for today's episode. The season is in the books. The postseason is right around the corner. Warriors versus Grizzlies. Who do you prefer? What do you think about the Suns pick? All that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Remember, the best way to help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Also, check out our Locked On Rockets newsletter. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.